played Pinecrest twice now, and we hadn't played them since I've been a coach at Cardinal Gibbons for 19 years, and we played them twice in 1 year. And I think we had, I know this, we had 15 possessions with 14 touchdowns. So offensively, things were going pretty well, and our guys did a good job, and our defense was good too. And their coach, Tim Hibbs, is a good guy, and he very good coach, you know. But, you know, it's a commitment to athletics you got to make, and if you're not going to make it, it's kind of tough.
I mean, traditionally speaking, Pinecrest has never been a football school. I'm not trying to offend anyone or anything like that, but I guess maybe in their divisions, it's a viable program. But I can tell you right now, there's certain sports that they're excellent, like swimming in particular. It's like phenomenal. Oh my God,
lacrosse and
absolutely. They're like a force to be reckoned with. But
so, what was the score?
First time was 52 or 55-7, and the second one was 42-0. So we played well, and I'll tell you what, the weather was brutal Friday night. I mean, it rained at 2:00. I was wet from 2:00 until we came out at halftime, and the rain was coming sideways with 20-mile-an-hour gusts, and I got a little bit of a cold, but I'm good.
I talked to him. Yeah, are we live? We're rolling. All right, cool.
So
right,
listen, I grew up down here and went to Northeast, right? A single parent household. There was no school choice back then, and my wife went to Cardinal Gibbons. I went to Northeast. I knew I wanted to marry a girl from the other side of town, but I would tell you that the football program started getting really good right around 86, 87 when I left school, and started seeing some athletes go over to your program. And
that's right.
But it's amazing now.
Right around
it's amazing to watch it.
That changed everything.
Yeah, we changed it all.
It's amazing. No.
Actually, it was more like when Vince Powell arrived.
Yeah. That's the exact thing I was going to talk about. Yeah.
Well,
I think he was pretty much the game changer player there at the school. Wouldn't you say that?
Let's use the
Dave Montiel and Donnell Bennett.
Absolutely.
But I think Vince really turned that whole thing around.
Vince came from Northeast. Yeah.
Student athlete.
Number
one.
What?
No, you got to have student athletes. Students first, athletes second.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did I say something out of turn?
No.
I probably did. Hey, that tends to happen.
I just want to make it clear.
Please do.
Academics at our school still today is number one.
Okay.
That hasn't changed, with Mr. Ott retiring and our new principal and just making sure that, we want to get these kids when they get to college stick.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And not, say we're going to graduate you, and then when you get there, you can't make it. And I think that's what Gibbons has done a great job of, giving these kids an opportunity to come from all over. And we're not a community school anymore, because if you look out to the east, what do you see? The ocean. So everybody's coming from all over Broward County, and
I went there from Coral Springs.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
People drive by.
I wanted to go to school by the beach.
People drive by 10 high schools before they get to ours. And I think we're the most east side school in South Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We just played at Venice 4 weeks ago, and they're on the water.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Venice High School, what a great place that is.
They're on the water?
They're on the water. They're on a canal.
Like Florida Gulf Coast is the resort.
It's unbelievable. What a great place.
That's pretty cool.
They were the 8A number one team in the state.
8A,
and we knocked them off.
Wow.
I have a question about that. But first, I want to properly introduce you two gentlemen.
Okay.
Right? So, welcome to the Connected by Water podcast, presented by Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and fueled by Papa's Pila Rum, who remind you never to be a spectator. Joining me today is both of you are no stranger to this program, and head coach for Cardinal Gibbons High School football team, Matt Dubuc, and fellow class of '92 graduate of Cardinal Gibbons High School.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Youngsters.
And we have our Florida House of Representatives representative right here, Chip LaMarca, and honored once again to have you in here. And I have to say that I really am just so thankful to have both of you guys, not only just here today, but just being a part of what we do here at Connected by Water all the time. It really, really brings a lot of value to the intrinsic value of what we try to give back to with the community. So, and both of you guys are true hometown heroes, if you don't mind that term. I really do firmly believe that. In my mind, that's an unequivocal statement. And this is episode 99.
Ooh.
So, and we're very proud of that. We're creeping up on 100, and both of you have been on the show. You've been on twice. You've been on once, I believe, and just coming on together, I think is a pretty cool dynamic and some of the things that we want to discuss today, about, you brought up community, and we're going to talk about a bunch of different things. I know we want to do a playoff preview. I think we're going to start off with that just because that's kind of like the hot button thing right now because you're right in the middle of it. And then there's a myriad of different things that we want to review with all the great and fabulous work that you do today. I want to mention one interesting thing, that we are without our normal bartender today in Carlene, right? But we brought along her brother, right? Carl Rybinski is here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yep. So if we couldn't
you can
have
touch
one
the ceiling, so that's good too.
Yeah, absolutely.
She's much better looking than I am.
I can attest for that. But I can also say that you do talk into the mic a lot better than she does too. And she's probably going to smack me at this point for saying that, but it's all good.
Thanks for having me. If you guys need anything, please let me know.
Absolutely.
So before you start, I
just
just want to brag about you for a second. Other than the really cool shirts you crafted for my campaign, which I'm sure that's the reason we won the election. But I had lunch over at Houston's today. A lot of people discount
the power of art.
Right? We had lunch over at Houston's today. I had a friend of mine from Davie, and he works for Broward Sheriff's Office, and we're sitting there, and they just happened to put us outside. And I said, "You see those two murals on the side of the bridge?" I said, "Yeah, those are awesome." He thought they were another artist from the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So I said,
people make that mistake. It kind of kills me.
That's a hometown hero. A friend of ours. I said I'm doing a podcast with him later today. He's an artist that does a lot of marine life and does very different. But he was blown away that we had somebody that lives here that did that on the bridge. So it's awesome.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Chip. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Cheers, gentlemen. So we were talking about Gibbons and student athletes and community, and I want to really kind of kick this off with the fact that you are right in the middle of a playoff race, right? So you just took your victory over Pinecrest, and we talked about that a little bit as we were kind of rolling in. But what's up next? Give us a little bit of a rundown of what we can expect coming up.
Well, I'll give you a kind of a quick summary of where we started and where we're at today. We scheduled some pretty tough games early on in the season, and you guys both probably know Joe Rose. And Joe, I wouldn't say is a fan of mine, but Joe mentions our team every Friday morning with Larry Bluestein, and
Joe does a little bit too much St. Thomas talking for me.
Yeah, and he said one morning, Coach Dubuc must be drinking to make a schedule like that. And then Larry popped in and said, "Yeah, he's drinking a lot of coffee." And then Joe kind of got nervous, but we had scheduled St. Thomas, Venice, Gainesville, Buchholz, which all have an opportunity to win a state championship, and then some of the other teams that we played. But we played well in some games. We're 8-2 at this point, and we're going into week 3, the regional semifinal, and we're going to play Gulliver Prep, which is a really good team that we beat. At the same
you're on
time,
your way to Gulliver now, right?
We're going to play at Tropical Park in Miami this week. And they're the same team they were a year ago, and they have 2 really good receivers, a really good quarterback that's committed to Tulane. We're better in some spots than we were a year ago, and so we're trying to figure it out. As we get closer to this game Friday night, we've got a good game plan with I've got a great staff. Our guys are so competitive, Being the offensive coordinator, head coach, you get a lot of flack, even when you don't score 14 out of 15 times. Like, what happened?
Right.
Why didn't you score?
Right.
Why don't we score on this drive? And there's a lot of pressure that goes with it. But I still love calling the game, and to me, you put up with all the other stuff so you can do what you really enjoy doing, which is calling the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Montiel, former Gibbons grad, and Jack Hanrahan, another Gibbons grad, call the defense, and we have a litany of other good coaches. And, we're just looking to go out there and play well Friday night. If we can get that one done, then we'll play a home playoff game against either Clewiston or Lakewood, and state championships the following week at Drive Pink Stadium. And, last year we traveled over 1,000 miles to win the state championship. This year,
you're right at home.
It could be 36 miles.
Oh, it's all South Florida based.
Yeah, it's all basically,
That's cool.
We get the next home game and then it's the state championship. So
now how's that different? Like when you and I were in high school, it wasn't really like a playoff system. It was like you went to districts, then you went to regionals.
It was the same thing.
Is
but
it
now,
kind of the same? Or?
It's the same. They call it an RPI now. An RPI is your schedule strength with your opponent's schedule strength and their opponent's schedule strength.
Right.
So that's why you got to play good teams during the season.
Is that why you went all in with the schedule?
Yeah. I wasn't drinking.
So that's the answer to the Joe Rose thing, right?
I wasn't.
All right.
My wife's family have a house in Gainesville, outside of Gainesville, and it was a good opportunity to go up there and play Buchholz, which is 10-1,
mm-hmm.
and they're in the third round as well. And we had a nice lunch at the lake house, and
I was wondering about that game. I saw you guys play. You guys won. I mean,
we won.
But I was like, wow, it's this team. And I didn't even know the team. And I researched the team, and I'm like, oh,
they're good.
That's a long way to drive to play a really good team, Matt.
They're good.
That was my initial thought.
And then, scheduling that game against Venice, we were supposed to play in week 1. And then, that COVID thing with the contact tracing hit. And we pushed that game back to both of us had an open week.
Mm-hmm.
Week 8 or week 7, whatever it was, week 7, and we were able to do that and reschedule that game, and we ended up leaving Cardinal Gibbons at 7:30 in the morning and playing at 12:30 in the afternoon,
mm-hmm.
and 128-22 at a place where I think they've averaged almost 60 points a game.
Wow.
That's crazy.
They are very good.
That's a powerhouse.
And unfortunately, we played at FAU and we played against our arch rival and just didn't show up.
You know what? I want to talk about that a little bit. I wasn't going to talk about that game.
It's all right.
But since you bring it up,
still bleeding.
I want to bring up a couple things. First of all, do you remember when we waved to you? We were like, "Hey, Chip."
I do.
All right, so I just want to make sure you knew that was.
I was very embarrassed to be there, but I was asked by. I was standing in.
Chip was at the coin toss, so
Coach wanted to have the governor come down, and he really wanted to do it, but unfortunately, just couldn't be there. Yeah.
Well, we do have a DeSantis in the room. We're over here with Nick. That's his, no relation, but Nick DeSantis. Sorry.
Claim him.
Yeah. Oh yeah, claim it. It's my uncle, right?
Claim it.
So anyway, we waved to Chip. That was the highlight of my night, right? Anyway,
at least you had a highlight.
I want to, man. I tell you, Matt, I was with you because it was halftime, and I wasn't going to yell down to you. I'm only probably about 50 feet from you, but I was with my wife, and I'm like, man, I'm feeling for Matt right now. And so I said, and you were just almost like no one wanted to go near you, right? And you were just kind of like I just saw the emotion and the energy and the power and the rage coming out of you. And I've seen it before. I played with you, and I felt it, because I've been hit by you. But
I didn't even go say bye to him when I was leaving. I didn't want to get near him.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, listen. I mean, the last episode we did together was called "The Heart of a Champion," right? And I still believe that to be true because no one can question your heart, Matt. And and I don't think that there was a person in that crowd on our side of the sidelines that doubted you for a second, even when we were down by a lot, because they still know that you are the kind of guy that's going to dust yourself off and live to see another day. And that's why we have every hope in you going into this playoff run.
Well, thank you. It was one of those nights you can't explain. When things go bad, they go bad, and our guys, I'm not blaming them. It's just.
There's one thing. Listen, there's one thing that they just. That offensive line that St. Thomas had, those guys were huge.
Listen, we went against them last year, and we beat them.
The real deal.
It wasn't any different than last year. Listen, they played a better game, and I told our guys, and I'll leave it at this. we're in the wild, wild west, and your picture is up in the mail house or whatever, the
post office,
and they wanted you, and I told them that they want you. There is a bounty out on you for what we did to them last year. And when you got 16, 17, 18-year-olds, sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. I tried to make it super clear, but I give all them, St. Thomas, all the credit. They played a better game than we did. They played a
great game.
They did. Were, our thing is be a team, be the most excited to play, be the best at doing your job, and they beat us in all three. So when that happens, it's not going to work out in your favor. Then we go to Venice, play the number 1 team in 8A, and we win all three.
Right.
And we win the game 28-22. And all the doubters that had us in the background, putting the screws to us, at that point, we come back, and we've been on a roll ever since. We had lost earlier in the year to American Heritage on a last-second field goal. Literally, I iced the kicker, 3 timeouts. He hit a 42-yard field goal. You got to tip your hat on those games and just say, okay, it is what it is. But that night, we could have won that game. The St. Thomas game, they had us from the word go. And, it is what it is. So hopefully we've learned from that, and we go into the next phase.
And the silver lining is you had 2 parochial schools in Broward County playing at a collegiate field in Boca Raton and FAU. That was the coolest part of it.
Yeah.
7,000 fans.
And you flipped the coin for that game, right?
I did.
And
told them there was an Indian head on both sides.
Was it really?
We had to kick off. How did that happen?
So I Chip.
Deferred.
you have been intimately involved with student athletics, I should say, right? In the last couple of years, and even beyond that, because all the work that you've done leading up to that has, I'm sure, was years in planning. You are the torchbearer, right, if you will, of the NIL. Now that everything is in place and everything's up and running, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What are your insights on the matter?
Well, we had appreciate that, and just kind of thought about some of the athletes, and really this was less about sports and athletics and more about freedom and fairness. And what people forget is when you go, whether you're on the women's golf team, soccer team, football, basketball team, men's football, you're expected to go to class. All this talk about, they get a free education. Expected to go to class. Many times they don't get to go through a program they want to go to because football comes first. So working out and training and being there, I literally had a story told to me from a school over in Tampa that, the offensive line, he didn't want any engineering students. He wanted people who were going to be there. And so it is great you can get education, but at the same time, there should be fairness in a level playing field that if a player of any sport wants to go make some money doing something, and it doesn't conflict with the play on the field, that just like if they were a graphic artist in college and they wanted to be a budding Dennis Friel, then they could do that. And so we looked at a lot of different things that, ultimately, that world has changed. And what's interesting is it wasn't just the quarterback and the star pitcher and point guard of the basketball team. FAU set up a deal with all of their female athletes. So if you're a female athlete at FAU, and I think my wife was on the volleyball team 87, 86 at Gibbons, if she'd gone to college and played volleyball, she can go out and do, weekend endorsements or advertisements at Larry's Clam House or Dennis Friel Art Gallery. The reality is you could go do these things now, and we've seen De'Ara King at Miami is probably the best example locally in South Florida, and he's probably racked up about $250,000 worth of endorsements. Thank God, because he's in some tough shape physically, and he may never play football again, but he's got a following, and it's not typically just the football jock, the guy you think it's going to be. It could be there's a gymnast at Oklahoma that is on one of the platforms that's raking it in because she has a huge social media presence.
I think it's interesting that you bring up De'Ara King, because that's a situation where, that's a student athlete who's getting endorsements and getting paid. And now seemingly, and listen, I want to also just say for the audience, whoever's listening, I am sensitive to we're talking about kids here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't want to really throw anyone under the bus or talk bad about anyone. I don't know De'Ara King personally, but seemingly he's been surmounted, right?
Yep.
Because the current quarterback is pretty good. You know,
and the same thing at FSU with McKenzie. He came back from a horrific injury, but the reality is he got on the field, and don't feel bad about icing the kicker. Norvell iced their own kicker, and they could have won that Notre Dame game.
Oh my goodness, man!
But
I'm a Knoll,
but just
right? So that killed me.
I'm a supporter, and I just watched McKenzie do that like last 10 minutes of the fourth quarter, and then get into overtime, and just watching it. That's his dream was realized. Even if he never plays again,
mm-hmm.
he's working hard to get into coaching, other things. But I met both these young men, and they're both adults. They both went through the transfer portal, and they both have great support systems. But both are thinking about their economic future. And what's interesting is neither one of them are selfish. We did we did a jersey swap with the company that my former aide went to work for called Dreamfield. It's a platform, and they connect businesses with athletes. Mm-hmm. They're not agents. They're just a portal. And ultimately, McKenzie, we did his first NIL deal at Miller's Ale House on Appalachia in Tallahassee, and he said, "Look, they're going to give him $1,000 to go there." He said, "Can you make it $1,200?" And they're like, "Sure, why?" He goes, "Because I want to bring 5 of my." He brought the starting quarterback, which at the time I thought he was going to be the starter, and the third quarterback, and then an offensive lineman and a tight end that I'll tell you, he blew my mind. This kid Cam McDonald. I met all the players before they got there, and the governor couldn't be there because it was during Surfside, and so we had the commissioner of education come and do the jersey swap. And I asked them all where they're from and what they thought of NIL, and so I meet Cam. He's this tall tight end, good looking kid, and he's like, I said, "Where are you from?" He's like, "From California, from Long Beach." I said, "Well, what got you here?" He goes, "Well, I was at USC. I came here because Florida has no state income tax, there's low regulation." And he was singing the chamber song, and I was blown away by this kid with such a Douglas. I want to stay here, build a business here, and raise a family here. And I'm like, this thing is bigger than just what we did in college sports. It's about Florida.
Is he a Democrat?
I don't know, but I think we'll convert him by the time he gets done with Ron DeSantis. He wants to be in Florida.
Let me ask you this question, because I've said this about over and over to different people, and I've never said this to you. So let's look at the Division I athletes, because that's where the money's coming, right? So Division I, whatever. And I know financially this would be tough, but my roommate in college, his dad bought a house. We all lived in it for 4 years. We paid them rent. When we were done playing, he bought the house, or he had the house. Mm-hmm. He sold the house in Lubbock, Texas for $60,000. His dad gave him a check for $60,000. We graduated, but me and 3 other people basically paid his rent. House. So I said, instead of the endorsement deals, because there's so much time taken on the kids, the athletes, that divides their time away from their academics, because trust me, I needed every minute I could get. And if you have a dream about going to law school or med school, you have to buy in to the academic piece. Mm-hmm. And there's so many guys today that they all think they're going to the NFL. 1%. But if the colleges could say, okay, Chip, you're a freshman, we're going to put $5,000 a year away for you. You make it second year, you're going to have $10,000. Third year, you're going to have $15,000. Fourth year, you're going to have $20,000. Almost like a letterman. Staying at the school that you started at, not transferring. Mm-hmm. Because all these transfers, now it's free agency, now it's the NFL. College football clearly is now the minor leagues to the NFL. Mm-hmm. But if you could give a kid $30,000 or $40,000 when he graduates in some type of IRA or in some type of deal that he could cash out and start a business or buy a home or do something, rather than take his attention away and having to go out and tweet and go on all these whatevers. I don't know. Now, I know that USC and Miami and Florida State can do that. I don't know if Akron can. So now you still have that counterbalance of who is a Power 5 versus a non-Power 5, and the division is still created. But I think the NCAA really moved fast because they had to, because like Dan Mullen getting let go yesterday, he gets $12 million to go away. I've got 2 players at Florida. Guess what? They called me last night. What do I do now?
Florida State.
No, at Florida.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, now go to Florida State.
Oh, he might go to Florida State. And I'm telling him,
Gerard?
I'm telling him, sit tight, guys. Wait, let the athletic director talk to you guys before you make any rash decisions and you go into the portal.
Unless you're at Miami and they just let their athletic director go.
They let the AD go, but Florida...
There's talk about that.
Sorry, go Canes.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I don't have an answer, and I agree because I'm a capitalist to let the kids go out and earn. But I can tell you this, when I played football, you had the 20-hour-a-week deal, which they have today. We didn't go 20 hours a week. That was no way. We were going 35, 40. You went and ate lunch in the coach's office, and you watched film of your opponent that week. I mean, you worked. You got one day off. There was no day off. You went on Sunday, and you went into the office because you had to.
So it sounds like to me that there's a gray area of, and correct me if I'm wrong, myth versus reality, and also a level of competition that the larger schools can't have over the smaller schools. But before this whole thing got passed through, you guys had to have like kind of discussed all these fallout scenarios, right? And,
yep.
And how was that a factor into playing? Because I understand when we talked about it, when you came on the last episode, we talked about this is pre-approval, right? And now it's all post-approval. There was discussion about, California had already put it through, and it's inevitable it's going to happen and everything like that. So right, and Florida's got to be right there, and we're actually going to be the first ones to actually enact it, right? So, and that's proper for saying that, right? So in the discussions of going through that, and now mind you, I'm completely neutral on the matter here today, right? I'm not offering my opinion. I'm just like guiding the whole thing. But like, I'm sure you guys have discussed like, okay, what if scenarios. Can you take us through any of those backroom conversations on stuff?
Yeah. So to Coach's point, the governor we sat down with the governor, my legislative aide and I, and we talked about this concept. And he's a former baseball player in Dunedin and was captain of the baseball team at Yale. He understood the concept, and so his first suggestion is, well, maybe we should set up a trust account, and any money they make while they're in college, similar but different. It wouldn't be automatic money. They'd still have to go out and do endorsements and do advertising and whatnot. And there was a conversation of whether they should have it or not have it. But I said, with all due respect to another, they're athletes and they have other things going on as well as their studies and as well as maybe this economic opportunity. We wouldn't tell the real estate student that. We wouldn't tell the law student that, or construction student or any of the other ones. So we had some of that conversation. But what's interesting is, and the record really is, and Coach said moving fast. The reality is the NCAA never did anything, right? I'm neutral. I was always neutral on the NCAA, Mark Emmert and the whole thing.
Right.
But the reality is they wouldn't move. They kept setting these special meetings up where they're going to have a meeting about advertisements, name, image, and likeness and all that. And we did ours in 2019, effective. It was going to be effective January 1, 2020, but nobody knew COVID was coming. We ended up making it July 1, 2021. So we gave them some time. And fast forward, we talked to a friend of mine's the chaplain of the FCA person at University of Miami, and somebody else at UF, and somebody else at Florida State, that all said, we've been recruiting off this for the last year. So, that's the reality of it. But the planning and the what ifs were, I was very cautious on how this could get implemented, how this could happen. So we gave ourselves that other year. California did a law they call the Fair Pay to Play Act, which pay to play just sounds bad in every way. Players don't get paid to play the game on the field. They get paid for who they are. Mm-hmm. And California was going to be 2023. So I said, Corey and I basically said, we can move this thing up and still lead the country. But the problem that happened was at the 11th hour, Emmert and the NCAA basically just got rid of that provision in their rules and said, if you have a policy, follow it. If your state has a policy, follow it. So it's really the Wild West. Believe it or not, Florida, even though we were a leader in this name, image, and likeness legislation, we actually have some guardrails that are tighter than Alabama, for example, or other states that just let the NCAA, pull the whole thing down. And, they have less restrictions on their athletes. We have one of the things we have to do in Florida is year 1 and year 3, whether you come from another school or you come in as a freshman or redshirt, is year 1, you have to take a financial literacy and life skills training course. It's about 5 hours. And then in year 3, the same thing. And that's everything from basic things like having a checking account, not having high interest credit cards, not having debt, what taxes you're obligated to pay,
which every freshman should take.
Right, exactly. 100%. So I mean, but these are things
sports or not.
We both know people that have said, well, I didn't have a checking account until I got drafted in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And then what do you do?
That's insane.
It's crazy, right?
I'll say this. Listen, I grew up working for my dad. If I didn't go to college, I would have been probably a police officer or in the military. I got an opportunity to go to college. If I was worried about a cell phone and what I was doing, I was a very mediocre student. And I'm being honest. Maybe God put me back at Cardinal Gibbons because I'm so tough on these kids for their academics.
Penance.
And I don't know if I would have been mature enough to handle tweeting about wings and things in Pompano and worrying about, an economics test. And again, I'm just being the devil's advocate here.
No, because 100%
for wings and things.
Listen,
it's a great place. You should try it.
Look at me.
But I will say this.
By the way, the bartender's son just graduated 5 months ago, and he's a BSO of Oakland Park now.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Another great leader.
We love them. We support
but I will say this. I mean, again, I if you're a mediocre student and you're getting pulled away over 20 hours a week playing a sport, because you all have to sign that paper once a week saying that you participated no more than 20 hours. We all did, and it wasn't real. And then you're worried about making sure that this company is getting this and this is getting that. I don't know if kids are mature enough to handle it. I don't even know if
most parents that are governing these children are going to even care. They're going to throw caution to the wind and be like, you need to do that thing. Right?
Like I like before a game, I drink 2 Red Bulls usually. That's enough.
That explains it.
Take it easy, Matt.
That's enough.
2 Red Bulls.
I don't need any more.
Down in the basement.
Hey, no wonder I called him Friday morning.
He's down in the cellar drinking coffee.
I called him Friday morning. I'm like, hey, what are you doing? He goes, oh, I'm setting up the field. I'm like, don't you have people to do that for you? Oh, I like doing it.
Yeah.
No wonder.
Yeah.
This explains it. 2 Red Bulls.
Explains a lot.
So,
Matt Foley, Matt Dubuc.
Yeah. So my son, what is he like? I don't recall the 5-hour energy, but what is he like? The Bang. He likes Bang energy. So he's holding up his Bang. Company. He's holding up his Bang, and he wants to get a sponsorship, and he's got those glasses. What are the glasses called? Pit Viper glasses, and he's like,
the reflective Terminator looking thing.
I have to get one of those sponsorships down the road. So every picture he takes, he's got a Bang in his hand or a pit.
Does he tweet? Does he hashtag that?
All right. You better believe it.
He's doing it for free right now.
He's a capitalist.
Trust me. You guys are now talking about a world that I am very familiar with because I deal with those guys all the time in this fishing business. Right? Grip and grins, everyone holding up the fish to everyone, the next popular thing, and everyone wants to get, Costa or Maui Jim to sponsor them and Yeti and like all this stuff. And listen, people need to understand, and I'm speaking directly to your players right now, people need to understand that those companies are literally using you, right? You're using the young, right? So be careful with that. Unless you got someone that comes and directly says to you like that. Oh, the Pit Vipers. There you go. Yeah.
I'll give you a funny story about, and I agree with a lot of what Matt is saying as far as preparation. I'm also 50, graduated high school in 86. So there wasn't a cell phone. We're using cassettes in the car, and kids these days are, I mean, they're already doing social media influencing, and they're probably repping brands at no cost, like his son. But I'll give you an example. They're Dreamfield, that's platform that my former aide went to go work with, and he's part of the team. So McKinsey, Milton, and De'Ara King are actually owners in the company. So they didn't just sign deals with them; they just became part of the company. That's what I mean.
Opportunity is opportunity, right?
Awesome.
So listen, unless these people come to you with a real opportunity, take it easy. So Mercedes-Benz was one of their companies that joined the platform, so athletes could go do an advertisement with Mercedes-Benz. So the companies are already on there. The kids don't have to find them. What's interesting is they found that like they had a big opening of something in Atlanta, and they had Roger Federer and I forget who Ludacris. Like, there was those two, and there was 2 or 3 other athletes, but some very popular people on social media. Paid them millions of dollars in total. And when they looked at what the quarterback at Georgia Tech, for example, was one of them, and a couple other athletes in that area of the country were on these same platform doing advertising for Mercedes-Benz, the ROI for the company was like 1/10. They paid them about 1/10 of what they paid the Hollywood stars, artists, and athletes, professional athletes, and they had about half to 3/4 of the impressions. So they have a lot. There's a lot of connection.
To follow.
Probably the guy that I really was blown away by the story. And again, I never had a cross to bear at the NCAA. Was the kid at UCF, Donald Delahaye. He was from Port St. Lucie. He was a kicker. I don't even think he was a starting kicker at UCF, but he was doing a YouTube channel and had a ton of followers. 1.2 million, became 1.5 million, 3 million followers for his videos. And he can kick a ball 65 yards. It's not always going through the uprights, and he was just doing these videos. But they were told to be, well, this is in violation of NCAA rules because it's about your sport. So they basically gave him an ultimatum: you either do the videos.
Yep.
First, he tried to change them to not be football related, but that's his thing, right? That's how he was known.
He went and played in Canada because my younger son follows him.
Yeah. So they gave him the opportunity before he can get to the ground floor at UCF of the athletic building, which Corey and I went to meet with Terry Mahajer to talk about this after it was done. Before he can get outside, they had already released an announcement that he'd left the school because he decided to do the YouTube videos, which, by the way, was making about $30,000 a video at the time. So how do you tell a college kid to stop making videos? And this was purely created by him, right? This wasn't like a advertisement from a rum company or a fishing
organic
company.
generation.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So here's the thing that I really wanted, like, hopefully some of your kids are listening to this or watching this or eventually will. I want to kind of put it forward and say, put in the work first on the field. Because at the end of the day, if you prove it there, all this other stuff is just going to fall right into place, right?
Here's the biggest problem. It's like if you go to different high schools around the county, it's about college offers now. This guy's got an offer from them, but it's not a committable offer. See, I don't do that. If Miami offers you, then you could commit on the spot. They want you. What's happening today is, I won't say Miami, but, Iowa comes into town and they offer 40 kids in South Florida. You can't commit to that school. But on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, I got offered, blessed to be offered. Well, can you commit to that school? If not, then it's nothing more than Iowa getting their due process when it comes to advertising. And that kid for 5 minutes getting his 200 likes on Facebook or on Twitter or Instagram. And I've never done that. And I take a lot of heat for that within our community because they're like, oh, this kid across town, he just got offered by, Iowa State, but I'm better than him. I'm bigger. I said, listen, I could get everybody on our team offered, but you can't commit to that school. So what does it mean?
Yeah.
And, our friends over across town, they are part of that deal, and I don't do it. And when you got to start lying, then you got to, or embellishing on that stuff, then you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Wrong reason.
And I've done this a long time. And I'll say this, This is my 6th year as the head coach. We hit our 60th win the other night. We're 60-12.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Nice, Matt.
Thank you. And
Listen,
and
6th year?
and we
2
had
state titles?
We had a shortened
3
season
appearances?
last year. We had a shortened
Listen,
season last year.
as a graduated Cane, go
I'm telling you,
Chiefs, man.
Listen, I
And
played,
follow
I
him on
played
Twitter 'cause
football
he's
in
got
high
the right
school
Twitter
with this
handle.
guy. Chip, I played
Chip, can
football
I
in high
say
school with
something,
this
Chip?
guy.
You're allowed to open your button. Do you want a refill? It's okay here. In this place, you're okay with that.
It's all right.
I'm just
It's all right.
saying.
I played high school and football with this guy, right? I know what a competitor
What did you play?
is. I was a defensive back, right? So I never really, he was a running back, right? So I never really had to like go head to head with him necessarily.
Could have.
And unless he ran a real route. But yeah, but we did drills together at school. Matt's a competitor, ultimate competitor, right? Really. And the fact that he rolled into Dodge City and, did what, 3 state appearances and 2 titles.
We've been in it twice.
What's
we won
how's
it
that
twice. We got to the semis
The
twice.
semis,
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I came from playing for Coach Morrill and working for him for many years, and he was great and taught me a lot. So I'll never ever say anything like I did it all on my own, because number one, you got to have great coaches. Number two, you got to have a work ethic. And like you're saying,
Have you ever read Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey?
The who?
Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. You guys familiar with that? All right. So listen. So Joseph Campbell, okay, very important author, and he wrote a book called The Hero's Journey, and it's studied in universities all across the country. And he basically says each hero's journey story has a very similar path, right? Whether you're talking about the life of Christ or you're talking about Luke Skywalker, right? They all have a very similar path, meaning, right? They all have a goal. They all realized it late in life or later in life. They all had helpers. They all had a moment of doubt, right? And they all have, who knows? Maybe this is all fashioned, like subconsciously of the life of Christ kind of thing, right? But there's also some controversial things that Joseph Campbell has stated that I completely disagree with. But I can't deny his intellectual capability and what he tried to get across in The Hero's Journey, right? And I bring that up because it's very similar with our circumstance here, right? Let's call you the hero. For all intents and purposes of the conversation, okay? Right? Well, maybe, Coach Morrill was that assistance that you needed to push you down the path, right? And heroes are humble, right? And heroes have their moments of doubt, right? But there is one thing that heroes always are, right? They win in the end. Okay? And what took you that far to do, right? And Chip, you're the same way, right?
Before you get off of Coach, let's talk about what Coach really is.
You look good with your button down, by the way.
I didn't know Matt until probably I got into the State House. I was still at the County Commission maybe, and he asked me to come do a coin toss at Gibbons. And I would always say, well, that's a Jack Seiler thing. He's a graduate, and he's a good friend of mine. He's the mayor. Which, by the way, I need to get him on the horn one of these days.
You need to have Jack on.
He's
great.
Jack,
but we need to
on the
let him
He's
know that
great.
there's an AD
He's on the
position
Orange Bowl
open
committee now,
at
right?
Miami. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Well, he's on the Orange
Jack's
Bowl
a Cane,
committee.
and there's an opportunity there.
All right.
Matt, you okay on your drink?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm sorry. The bartender has to kick in every 30 minutes and just ask.
I'm
That's
good.
okay.
I'm good, thank you.
It's a union requirement. So no, what honestly, what Matt is a very humble guy, and we talked when we were in the middle of COVID, and was trying to find out, when he can get the kids back out there, what was coming down from Tallahassee. I mean, he was following this pandemic and challenges for the school and for his kids the whole time, and just he cared about each one of those kids and how they're going to get back on the field when they could or they couldn't, and all that. But look, I think to have a guy like this at a school, a school the size of Cardinal Gibbons here, where we all kind of grew up. I mean, we're lucky to have him.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So I think he's probably never going to take the hero title.
No, he won't.
I'm not.
He
No.
won't. He won't.
I'm not gonna
That's
either,
why
by the way.
That's why I have to get him on a show and say it in the public format, so
No.
he believes
No.
everyone can see, because he's never going to say it himself.
Now,
Right.
I'll say this, guys, and what you said, Chip, is right. I never did this for the money. Never. this is always about a passion that I had, playing, and then obviously coaching, and been mentored by the best. I remember one day I'm sitting at a field somewhere in the middle of Texas, and I had a flip phone and called Coach Morrill up, and I said, geez, we're 1-8. I was coaching at West Texas A&M. I knew we were about to get fired. I was going to get married, and I said, geez, I don't know if I want to, do this anymore and travel around, and you get hired to be fired. And he said, come on back. I'll get you in over here. And things were going slow, and interviewed at St. Thomas, and it took an offer from St. Thomas to get finally Cardinal Gibbons to give me a chance. And I was a very loyal soldier for a long time, for 14 years, and all I ever wanted was an opportunity. And Mike said, hey, listen, you're my guy, just keep doing what you're doing. And the guy that's doing what he's doing has got to be the last guy to leave and the first guy to get there. And I've always done that, and I still do that today. I have some loyal guys today that you pass off a little bit more to them and you give them a little bit more, but I'm still the first one to get there, and usually the last one to leave. And I enjoy it. And when you quit enjoying it, then you got to find something else to do. And
I guess I got a spot at the bar for you whenever
we love
you're
you
ready.
for that. Keep it up, Coach.
and I think first of all, I think he lives pretty close to the field too.
That helps.
But probably the most important thing he said is when he made that call at 1-8, he was getting ready to get married. I can tell you that people ask me, why I'm doing the political thing, or wasn't my blood. I was a music student and wanted to design cars. And the one thing I said I want to get right no matter what is marrying a nice girl from Cardinal Gibbons. But
smart.
But I have to tell
Bless
everyone for those listening and watching and whatever at home that both wives are in the room currently hanging out.
Yes,
at the
they
bar,
are.
So thank you both for being here today.
So I always tell kids, how'd you get in politics? Well, listen, first of all, you got to figure out what's your North Star. You got to have a stable life at home. And if they're kids, then obviously this is a different conversation. But if they're adults and they want to run for office, or they want to go off and coach somewhere across the country, how's your home life? How's your marriage? Is that priority and all that? I know that for some people, I'm looking at Jimmy Johnson ball over there. I know sometimes people pour their heart and soul into their job, and they don't always put family first. And that's I think you have to do that, or whatever else you're going to do is going to fail.
Yeah, and I have to also add to that you're completely trying to divert the fact that I was about to focus on you for also being a hometown hero, right? Because that's how we started this out. But you too also do a great number of good things.
Well, Dennis, look around this place. I mean, your talent, whether it's Chip as a legislator or me as a coach, if you look around this room, I couldn't do I wouldn't say 1/10. I couldn't do 1% of what you do. And this brings joy to many people. I've got some stuff tonight. I mean, to me, this is such a talent, and what you've done with your job in this podcast, in your store, in Pompano, on the bridges. Man, oh man, you should be super proud.
Yep.
God bless you, Dennis.
I really appreciate you saying that.
Can we get you have you moved east yet?
I haven't moved.
We got to make
the
that
housing
happen,
market is horrible right now.
But it's just as horrible.
I know
out
it's
there.
not going to get any better. I know
Turn
it's
the
not going to
bar.
get any
Don't talk political.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know.
We love
Move east.
No, but I definitely want to move east. We definitely want to move east.
You have to have a house on the Intercoastal.
We definitely. Here's the thing.
With a big mural.
All right, let me tell you exactly a little bit of the timeline here. Everything that we, and I say my wife and I, my family, everything that we have accomplished, and I'm almost going to throw in my business partner Harris at the same time, it has been whatever we were making, we're putting right back in the business. Whatever we're making, we're putting right back in the business. My domestic facade or whatever has suffered because of it, right? Because we haven't made the best real estate. No, we haven't made the best real estate decisions, or the timing hasn't been right? So now we're in the mode where okay, cool. We got to place up over in Pompano, business is great and everything like that. And I'm the housing market's horrible. So now we have to make an interesting decision. So I'll just leave it at that. But yes, the idea is to come out here. That it always has been. So, we want to, whether it's moving to LBS or Lauderdale or the Bayview thing, or we want to go to Lighthouse Point, we'll
find it.
Figure that out here shortly.
I'm good right now,
No,
but I do have a Joey Accardi Jeep. It's parked out front.
Yeah,
I do have one of those. It's a 1941 special edition Jeep that was purchased from Joey Accardi not too long ago. Beautiful Jeep.
We're good, Carl. Yeah. So the interesting thing is about moving east. It's like, the other day I posted that like it took me like an hour to go 8 miles west the other night, and like the traffic is just getting absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be season coming in. I know there's a lot of construction going on in town, like east-west construction and stuff. I know that's a big factor as well. But I'm at the point where I'm just like, I'm so done with it. I just want to
Can tell you said traffic and visitors. The numbers came out the other day for year over year. We're actually at 2019 numbers in tourism, hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
We're about 3% above that statewide.
Wow.
Do you realize we're just now opening up for international tourists? So about 20-25% of our visitors haven't even been here. So, I mean, Florida's on fire, and, whether you're West Broward or East Broward, there's a lot of folks coming here.
I just want them all to come right here to the gallery.
Let's make it happen.
Buy a bunch of paintings, and then they can all go home happy with fish on the rolls. So,
well, your talent is certainly there to provide that.
Well, I appreciate you guys saying that. Chip,
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about a lot of the latest things that you had going on here in the community, because, I mean, you've done a lot of great things with the beach restoration. You've done a lot of great things with the port, especially.
Mm-hmm.
You've done a lot of great things with providing for student athletes, which I will say this to just kind of wrap that up a little bit in my mind. I'm all for the NIL, and I tell you why. Because I believe that the NCAA has taken advantage of the situation for far too long. I really do believe that. Whether or not the students are gravitating to it in the proper way, maybe that's all part of the process, right? So hopefully that all gets worked through. Okay.
My only thing is there, and I know because we are living in a capitalist society, and I'm a capitalist, but if the number one guy's making this, we got to make sure the 99th guy's making this. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Take us through a few of the latest projects you have going on right now.
So legislative priorities for this year, I really have got a couple things, and one is tried to. We lost a dear friend to the Galt Mile. He was the president of the association for all the buildings on Galt Ocean Mile for 30 years. POI Racing, and one of my priorities is to get A1A to be designated from just right about where Greek Isles is, so just north of Oakland Park, to Flamingo, which is just the beginning of Water by the Sea. After him for what he did, he had a tough bout with COVID, and you talk about, well, I don't really know anybody that wasn't in tough shape, and this guy was in great shape. He played golf over at Coral Ridge and tennis, and rode his bike every day, and just one of those freak situations. I want to, like us to remember him. Now, something that can affect everybody. Probably the most important thing I'm working on is if you are a family that is under or up to 200% of the federal poverty line, and you have kids, and it could be a single parent household, 2-parent household. If you are at that number or below, you qualify for something called Kid Care, and basically that's the federal children's health insurance program. At the state level, we have a company called the Florida Healthy Kids Corp. It's part of through the state. I was on the board for years ago under our CFO, and I learned that there is this fiscal cliff. The minute you make a little bit more or pick yourself up by your bootstraps, you go off this fiscal cliff, and those kids, instead of being covered for virtually nothing, so one or as many kids as you have would be under the Medicaid guidelines, they would have insurance. The minute you go over 200% of the federal poverty line, they lose that insurance, and basically they have to pay about $243 per child. So
that's the fiscal cliff.
Yeah. So just think if you have, I'll use my own situation. My dad
Much
passed
different than fishing, but these are the stats.
Yeah.
So you say you have a single parent household and it's a mother or father and they have a job and they go over that number. If you've got two or let's say 4 kids, so you were being you were having that subsidy from the feds, and the state puts in about a quarter of it. It's about 3/4 to a quarter. Once you go over that number, you do yourself better. So you work overtime, you get a promotion, you get a certificate, you get it to go back to college, whatever it is, you make yourself better. If you're making 215, 220% of the federal poverty line, if you've got 4 kids, now you've got almost $1,000 bill for their insurance. What I'm proposing we do is say, all right, well, 250% of the poverty line, 300, 350, 400. By the time you get to 400% of the federal poverty line for a family of 4, you're over $100,000. $115,000. You're probably not going to need that insurance. You'll probably be at a company where you have group insurance or you can afford it. But what I'm proposing we do from a responsibility standpoint of where we all sit is at 250% it'd be $50 per child. So it's not $15 for all your kids anymore. It's $50. Mm-hmm. So then at 300% of the poverty line, it's 100. 350, it's 150. 400. So you're pulling yourself out of it, and your cost is going up, but it's not going to go straight over the cliff. So that's something that I think we see that with other federal and state programs, but basically, there's no real benefit for someone going. It's kind of like the unemployment issue that we talked about, in the beginning of COVID. There's no real benefit to going and killing yourself to go from $29,000 to $65,000. That area in there, there's enough in the federal, and I'm not saying that everybody's like that, but there's an opportunity to have benefits from the federal government that we need to make sure we smooth that up. So as people get better, at what they do and make more money, they ultimately will be able to, take care of themselves by themselves.
Interesting. So, you're really all over the place.
I know, right? I thought I was going to be the beach guy or the environment guy.
Right? but that's great. Yeah. I mean, it's like you're really covering a lot of bases, Chip.
Look, you see a problem, you try to fix it, right?
Yeah,
you can't fix all the problems.
For sure. But I mean, that's just a testament to all the work that you've been doing. Like every time you come on, or every time we even talk, it's like I'm so impressed with all the new stuff that you always have going on. Like you're really tackling a lot of topics.
But it takes a team, true. And the other thing,
for sure.
You brought up the port, and that's something that I immediately. When I saw those ships out in California, I immediately called the governor's office. Like, you got to get out there, man.
Yeah.
Tell them to get to so I talked to everybody in the industry. Can we get their ships across the Panama Canal? 7 days they can be here.
So is there anything happening with
governors all over that? Yeah.
So I'm going to call him Ronnie because we're tight.
Okay.
Right. So is he pushing that through to really make that happen?
So
is it going to happen?
Yeah. Well, so they're working with a lot of our port directors. So
Matt, you sure you're okay?
I have to go to the bathroom.
You look a little thirsty.
We're almost
We're just asking. Sponsored by rum tonight.
Can I get a 2-minute break?
We're gonna
because I have one question. I have one question for him when I come back.
You really have to go?
I really do.
All right, then go.
All right, I'll be
tell
right
my
back. Papa's Pilar story while he's going.
All right, yeah, all right. Yeah, we're gonna have what do they call the intermission moment with Papa's Pilar story?
Matt,
this is in lieu of strange questions. By Papa's Pilar.
Well, there might be strange questions or lightning round or something anyway. But so I was asked by our friend up at Papa's Raw Bar, Troy Ganter, to be part of a group of judges for food and drinks from around town.
For the Chef Shakedown?
Chef Shakedown, yeah. Okay. It was me and a couple of female social influencers and a former NFL player. And the 4 of us are sitting there and, it was a drink. I can't remember who all participated in the craft cocktails, but I do remember there was a Papa's Pilar from our friend Dave over at Even Keel. And it was.
I love Even Keel. It was such a great restaurant.
I don't even know it was in this drink, but it was Papa's Pilar. It was just amazing drink. It was like this creamy. You just want to, it was a great drink with you taste the rum and all that. So I'm like, all right, I need to figure out how to really push the votes legally. But I got to figure out how to push everybody towards this drink because I like Dave, love Even Keel, and this drink was amazing. And the other ones were fantastic too. But this was just kind of like one of these. All right, we'll see if we can get this thing over the top. And we ended up getting a 4-0 vote. Uncontested winner was a drink with Papa's Pilar and and they made some to-goes for us. So it was a good night for them, and then there was a couple other really good winners in the food category. But yeah, it was a great night, and
so you pulled it off.
So yeah, Papa's Pilar won,
Nice.
and I figure once in a while Castronovo
You know
get
what?
a shout
You know
out
what they call that in the Papa's Pilar world?
What?
2 things: that you were not a spectator.
Mm-mm.
You were a man of action. You took action, and number 2, Papa would be proud. Right? That's what
Fantastic.
they say in our Papa's Pilar world.
Winning.
We call it. Yep. Absolutely.
Winning. I got one question for Chip.
Go ahead. Fire away.
So, when you look at the NIL
Mhm.
and you start to kind of break down the numbers, where did you think the Power 5 versus the rest of 5 would come into play?
Well,
I know the NCAA thought of that, and because I'm an old school guy. I'm a Red Raider, Texas Tech. We're a Big 12 school. Thank you. We're a Big 12 school, but we're not in the MAC.
Mm-hmm.
The money's different. And, I remember we used to turn in our jersey after the game, and we got a $10 bill to go out to eat after the game at a home game.
Probably could have sold that jersey for more.
Yeah, that was in the 90s. I know these kids are doing better today because of inflation and whatnot, but, when is there an opportunity to equalize the playing field? I just don't.
So I get your point. I think that the whole purpose of doing this was
to try it's for other sports too,
right?
Not just football.
To try to do that. And what's really interesting, again, you're finding the kid that was on against your former quarterback on that QB1, that Spencer Rattler.
Mm-hmm.
He's not playing.
He's benched. Yes,
but just like De'Ara King, he's making
big money
off NIL because of his presence. Now we've got there's like I said, there are female gymnastics athletes. There are men's swimmers. The University of Florida's swimmers are killing it.
But as a coach now, I've got guys getting recruited by major Division I schools.
Mm-hmm.
We had a kid offered by Florida the other day, and now the coach gets fired.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to probably go to Florida because they don't have a coach, but he's going to end up going to
Florida State.
Or
high five.
Tell him to call Mike
or whatever.
Right? Tell him to call Mike. Mike's got a spot for him.
Take it easy. The bar's still open.
Listen,
Dennis,
hey, Carl, I hate to break the news to you.
Dennis,
Mario's not coming. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I just look back and I go, are we creating a larger divide in college athletics? Because and I'll say this, when I played in the Southwest Conference.
Mm-hmm.
I played in the first ever Big 12 football game. We played Kansas State in the first ever when the Big 12, the Big 8 and the Southwest Conference merged. I played in that game. And the landscape of money changed just with TV contracts at that time. The players didn't see it, but the university saw it. And if you go back to my university today, there's more buildings on that campus. We had the largest campus by land in the United States.
Really?
Yeah, Texas Tech. But we didn't see it. The players didn't see it. In today's world, you look at it and you go, all right, so you have 20 really top flight teams from top flight programs from top flight conferences, and then you got everybody else. Like, can Cincinnati make it into the Final Four and get into the playoff?
I think they deserve it.
They do, but are they not going to get kids now because Alabama and Michigan and Miami, they got these boosters saying, okay, we're going to guarantee these kids, $15,000. And the other question I had for you was, so if you're a Pell Grant kid and you hit a number from the NIL, you lose your Pell. You know that, right?
So I'm not sure. So we looked at
that's
that
a fact
in Florida. Okay.
Some of these kids, if they reach a number over $6,000,
right.
If they reach $6,001, they lose their state money from the Pell.
So they're still getting what, depending on what the sport they're in, or if they're in a head count sport, if they're still getting a full scholarship. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, a lot of this, for example, to your point, you had a Dabo Sweeney saying if this ever happened, he'd quit coaching football.
Oh, that's fake news.
And meanwhile, his name is trademarked. He appreciates his NIL.
Oh yeah.
And you had Coach Saban basically saying he didn't want to have anything to do with this. And now he's bragging he's got the first quarterback who hasn't thrown a football, and he's making $1 million. Which, by the way, the kid's not, but I'm glad
that's not real.
I'm glad he's making some money. I don't know if he's up to that yet, but I mean, look.
Well, if that was an incentive-based program, I don't think he's up to $1 million based upon how that season's going.
Money.
Yeah. At the end of the day,
I mean, again, I understand we're talking about kids, but we're talking numbers, right? So I mean, that's factual.
I just look at it and I just say college football is regional.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I played, Texas Tech played Houston, we played SMU, we played TCU, we played Baylor.
And then you'll go out of your comfort zone every now and then to play one unique team.
I played twice at Georgia.
Yeah.
Those are money games.
Right.
And the university we probably ran our whole year off of what we got paid from playing at Georgia.
The truth
played
is
at Penn State. Played at Penn State in front of 97,000 people. That was a pay game for us, and we almost won the game. We got beaten on the last.
That had to have been kind of cool.
It was awesome. I'll never forget it. And playing at Georgia was awesome because I was from South Florida and got to play at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, we went west. We went Arizona, Oregon. But listen, I look at these kids and I hope they make decisions on academics, number one, athletics, number two, and not NIL, number one.
You're talking about the kids.
The kids.
Well, listen, if they're your kids, and I know what you're doing with them, I mean, they're gonna take some of those principles and those lessons you taught them, hopefully. And
I tell our guys all the time, I say, if you can go to Florida State or Florida and you want to live in this state, you can't go to any better place because of the alumni base.
Okay.
You want to get a job, who you know, your degree counts. I went to Texas Tech. I don't live in Texas.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That hurts me in the job market in Florida. Doesn't help me here. Now, if I would have lived in Texas, different story because of our alumni base being strong there. And I tell our really, really good players, if you can go to Florida State, Miami, and you want to be a Floridian, man, go to one of those schools. Or now UCF or even USF because they're almost par to those other places. But, it's not just about the football. It's got to be about more.
It's not just about the football. You bring up the Florida thing I just want to say real quick, you bring up the Florida thing and the Dan Mullen thing. That's not a knock on the NIL to me. I mean, to me, that's a knock on the SEC and the money grab for ESPN. I mean, that's
100%.
I think that's really where the Dan Mullen firing has everything to do with
TV runs the whole world.
Think about just what I was telling my friend. I root for Florida State, but think about Florida State right now. They are a women's soccer and softball and men's basketball school. They're not a football school, right?
Leonard Hamilton has just
Florida State
stoically he's
awesome. Changed their head coach. If it wasn't 2 years ago when he lost to the Canes in
You're a Canes
Tallahassee. And that's what made him change their head coach, which now they have a football team. Thank you very much.
So, women's softball, women's soccer, Florida State champions.
Fantastic runs, both of them.
Had to your point, and you think this is the smaller sport. They're not head counts. The softball is not a head count sport. They don't get a full scholarship. NIL is legal when they win that championship, especially the soccer team with Dana Castellano. She had 1.5 million Instagram followers. She's playing for Real Madrid now.
Yep.
So she could have done some good with it. So I mean,
she's a heck of a
nothing's
soccer
perfect.
player, by the way.
When we pass legislation, there's always going to be something that's not right and doesn't isn't accepted by everybody. But
one fit all.
Yeah, but I think we were surprised that the NCAA basically just folded, and that's what that's what Mark Emmert did. I mean, we ultimately had to get him on the horn this year to keep it this year, and they're happy just not dealing with it.
Yeah, the part about the NIL, I think can be viewed as tough, is the things that Matt has to deal with, and the kids and the phones and all the different things.
Aren't they on the phones anyway? Maybe not in class.
No, yeah, for sure.
And the funny thing was, he was telling a story about where he lived for 4 years and paying that guy's rent.
Yeah.
My concern was if that guy was a booster, you couldn't live there. I mean, there's some of those.
It was a roommate's father that bought it.
Right, but I'm saying if the roommate's father was, I mean, just look, the NCAA in general. Again, I don't have an axe to grind on them, but like just dumb things. Like if you slept on someone's couch for a summer, like when COVID happened and football players, student athletes had to go home, they didn't have a meal plan at home. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them might have been trying to figure out how do I eat like I was eating when I was here at school. So
yeah,
I mean, I don't think they're
No,
the NCAA definitely is not. They're not up for the athletes. I don't think.
No, I don't think so at all. I think that this is ultimately. I think. Wow, listen, Chip. I think the work you've done here is great.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
I was just trying to put our stamp on it. I mean, just thought Florida could do it.
And not only that, just as a representative of our great state, right, of the free state of Florida. I'm no longer calling it the Sunshine State, by the way. So
free state.
I'm going to say we are the free state of Florida, right? As a representative of the free state of Florida, you've done some great work, and this included, right? And I really do think, and Matt, I know we talked a little bit about the NIL and a lot of the things, but I just think, listen, you get an organization like the NCAA that had to have been dealt with eventually, right? Do you agree or do you not agree? I mean,
I look at it and I say, if this is your full-time job, you failed.
Yeah.
You failed over the years. You failed. How could this get to this point without more structure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they probably could have avoided all this.
Oh, they could.
Yes,
and that's ultimately my point.
Yeah.
So listen, you can only avoid it for so long, and a guy like Chip LaMarca is going to come in and call you out on your BS. Right?
I just hope.
Right. I mean, and that's it. And you do it all the time, right? You're coming out and you're basically calling people on their BS, and that's why I respect you so much.
Appreciate that.
And that's really the truth.
I just don't want, and I'll use my own kid as an example. When he goes to college, and if he wants to be a lawyer, I don't want him being distracted from why he's really there. To get a degree, to get an education, to play ball, because that's 100%. What he loves. I don't want him worrying about making money when he should worry about making grades. So
it's
that
a very short-lived thing.
It happens fast.
The NIL, it's great, right? Because it's going to give you a path to do something, but it's a short-lived thing if you don't have a longevity like in professional sports.
I would just rather them have come up with an idea of, hey, let's give every guy $30,000 or every girl $30,000 when they're done playing. There's enough money out there because of the TV contracts, and let them start their life.
So that would probably work in football, probably work in men's basketball. Would it work in lacrosse or swimming or anything else? I mean,
well, probably not, but I'm only thinking about one sport. So
yeah,
I had to always try to pull myself back and say,
you're right.
We'd always say it's not just about football, but then it would always get to be about.
But then you wouldn't have all those big buildings. You wouldn't have all those big buildings on those campuses, and that's the fact of life.
That is 100%.
Football pays for it all.
Yeah,
100%. 100%. Gentlemen, I thank you both for coming in today. Really,
thank you.
Did we hit on all the points we wanted to hit on today? Is there any other things we wanted to bring up today before we kind of wrap?
I'm hoping everybody is going to be rooting hard for Cardinal Gibbons.
Yeah,
Chip. Absolutely. Not only is he a fabulous artist, but what a host! What a host!
He is, right? He's got his own bar.
Are you Howard Stern's understudy?
Listen.
Well, you better buy a couple of portraits before you go, and then he'll tell you if he's Howard Stern or not.
Let me. It's funny that you just chimed in because I always say that his sister is the Robin to my Stern, right? And that's what I always say because Carlene, who was not here today, right? Which she will be back next week.
My little sister couldn't be here today because she's on her Thanksgiving vacation.
Right, and we invited her brother who drank all the rum behind the bar.
I'm sorry he had to put up with me, but I'm here. And
that's right. Thank you, Carl. You did a great job, Carl.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
But you guys aren't thirsty. I see my sister serving all kinds of stuff, and here I only made one drink. I'm kind of offended. Be honest.
One drink for each of us.
That's it. Yeah,
dude, come on.
You've made more for yourself, though.
You drink. You're sponsored by rum. You got to drink when you're here and be yourself.
No,
enjoy yourself.
We're good. Everyone can do what they want. It's fine.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So, I want to wrap this up by saying basically how I started this podcast out. Hometown heroes, right? And I don't say that lightly. And I do really mean that, because both of you guys are so important to this community. You may ask how we're all connected by water. When Matt came on for the first time, I said we're connected by water breaks because we started out playing high school football together. And then we're obviously connected by water for a great many of community aspect reasons and conservation reasons, and the things that we're mutually involved with, and common goals that we work towards. So, but let it be known that in my heart and in my mind, I'm in the presence of greatness, and I really do truly believe that about both of you guys. So, important people matter to the community, and important people definitely matter to South Florida. You two are definitely important people. You two definitely make a difference in our community, and I want to thank you both for coming to see me today and spending time and giving me your great and valuable time. So I want to thank the wives who came in the rooms and stood up to the matter the entire time. So
appreciate what you do,
Yanni, Nick, Carl. Appreciate everything, guys.
Thank you, Dennis.
Right?
Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. So with that, if either of you or anyone else in our audience are in the market for a new vehicle, please contact our good buddy Joey.
I have one.
Don't contact Joey, though. You want to contact Dean, right? At Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Joey's fishing. Joey's running the business, right? But if you want to buy a vehicle, contact my buddy Dean, who can hook you up.
You're such an amazing person, an amazing artist. Continue with your journey, and we all love you. I just want you to know that.
Thank you. Your sister's going to put you in a headlock here. Thank you.
Expanding your shop. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Joe's great. He's great.
Yeah, no,
love him.
Joey's great.
Great ambassador for Cardinal Gibbons and for our football program.
Glad you brought that up, because that's the thing that people don't realize about Joey Cardi. Is the community give back that he continually keeps doing, and I want people to understand that when they buy a vehicle from him, you're buying a vehicle from a guy that gives back greatly to his community.
In 2018, we won the state championship, and there's a restaurant we go to, Cafe Seville, which he goes to, and he says, "Hey, you want to take your coaches?" So I took the coaches out there. I guarantee you the bill was expensive. Over $1,000, and he picked up the tab. Yeah, and he just one of those guys. He is a good dude.
Joey's a good dude, man. He's good like that.
I consider him a friend, but I also consider him one of those guys that are just about the right thing.
When we first had this podcast rolling, I think we were about 14 episodes into it, and I saw Joey at an FFO event, and he goes, "Hey, I want to."
Tell everybody what FFO is.
The Freedom Fighter Outdoors. Yeah. Freedom Fighter Outdoors. Take the veterans fishing.
Sarah and Vinny do a great job.
Sarah and Vinny LaSorsa absolutely do a fantastic job with that organization. And Joey's like, "Hey, I want to sponsor your podcast." It was his idea. And we were just rolling because we were just doing this for, and just trying to build something. And it was his idea. And he came in and he fully supported the whole entire, we wouldn't be where we are today. I mean, Papa's is a great sponsor. We love them to death, but Joey's really what got us rolling. So I can't say enough about it. Talking about Papa's, considering Papa's, it's another great family to be involved with. Those guys are solid, like all of them. And listen, salt of the earth people, great run organization. They have a fantastic line of rums. They have their reserve that just came out, and they also just came out with, their legacy rum, which is, a hugely popular product that they just came out, and we've had it, and they gave me like one bottle because there's like only a limited amount of it, but I can tell you firsthand that it's just probably the most beautiful bottle of rum that I've ever had to drink. So I want to give a shout out to Papa's Raw Bar as well. Troy and Cassie over there got their operation dialed in, and if you're in the Lighthouse Point neighborhood, please stop by and enjoy something off the Friel Connected by Water sushi menu. And
I was there this last week.
I used to have some oysters. I don't think they're there anymore.
What?
I don't think. Yeah, Chips Relentless Relentless Oysters.
All right, I have to write a sternly worded letter to the Papa's Pilar or the Papa's Raw Bar family.
It's Papa's Raw Bar, conch chowder, clam chowder mixed.
Chip,
Delicious.
Dennis,
I love the
wanna
water.
thank you
So here-
for
here-
having you at the bar tonight, even though you don't drink much.
Or
Anyways,
did we
good
mention
to
the part
have
where
you
our
at
wives are here?
The Dennis bar, and we appreciate you.
So the quick story on what's important on that menu there is, so my brother-in-law Alan is the national sales director for Dairy-Ush, and they have a separate captain's menu with the Dairy-Ush on it.
Mhm.
They've got a tasting coming up in December, a dinner.
Okay.
So they
Do you know
treat,
December what? Do you know?
I'll find out.
Okay.
Yeah, they treat us well in that aspect.
Nice. All right.
It's all
Awesome.
about family.
Absolutely. And also, if you're in the water for a blue water chair, all right, or a rocket launcher or anything, if you're about our normal bartender, Carlene, is usually here, and that's what she does on her day to day. So
Good.
please support Carlene in all her endeavors with Blue Water Trails and Jupiter Marine Sales. All right. Are we good, gentlemen?
We're
Excellent.
good.
Your
Dennis,
ego.
thank you.
December 4th, 7 p.m., Papa's Raw Bar.
December 4th, 7 p.m., Papa's Rubber, the Dairy-Ush tasting. Thank you very much.
Are you inviting me?